players to pick from?
Yes, same group of players, a few bumps and bruises. Obviously Massimo won't be available because we're getting that right. Yasser is having a scan on a foot injury today, but we're hopeful that he'll be available.
Okay. And speaking of Massimo, it's speculation about his future has resurfaced a little bit in the national press. The Aston Villa links come up again nationally and locally. Is there anything official happening that you know of?
Not that I know of. I think you're always going to have that link with Aston Villa now. Tim's there, so but I've not heard anything any different at the moment.
And just in terms of getting his injury right, is it just a case of resting him up, or is it?
No, he'll be fine for Colchester. You know, we've got that game in mind as the one Massimo's going to play before the playoffs.
Okay. What do you want to get out of Saturday? What would you regard as a positive experience?
We want to get through the game without any injuries. Hopefully a couple of our younger players get some experience, and we get some rest into the boys that really need it.
I don't notice that necessarily getting 3 points or even being unbeaten is not immediately among your list of priorities. So is it much more about preparing for the playoffs than facing Preston?
I've said for the last week now, for us it's about preparing for the playoffs. You know, there's going to be games that we're going to, you know, be really strong in. I think games that maybe we're going to experiment a few different maybe systems and things like that.
Is it a good place to throw people in with so much on the game for Preston?
I'm not saying we are throwing people in. I'm just saying that we're going to do what we've got to do, and that's make sure that we're ready for the 7th of May.
Is there any thought about the sort of psychology of potentially meeting Preston and then meeting Preston a few weeks later in a possible playoff run?
We're going to try and win the game. We're going to go and try and beat them. Of course we are. We know it's a big game for them, and we're going to go out there and try and put a real good performance in, like we did for the sort of last 30 minutes the other night.
Talk about those last 2 or 3 games. Is it fair to say the performance levels have been sort of quite different, and can you put your finger on that?
I think Rochdale we were outstanding. Yeovil, we obviously Kane made it difficult for us. We weren't incisive enough, and paid the penalty for that, and you know, wasn't good enough. And then obviously the other night we tried a different system a little bit. Could have easily been a couple of goals up early on. We weren't. Then we a little bit sloppy and a little bit slow, and we're 2-0 down. And then obviously I had to change it and try and put some intensity into the game and in the performance.
Is it a little bit of a worry that you are a bit up and down in this stage?
No, not really. I think it's when you're already in the playoffs with 5 games to go, you just want that playoff game to come along, because the games now are getting in the nicest possible way are a bit of a hindrance for us, because I think if you're a player, you know that there's nothing really riding on these games. You just want to get to the first playoff game, because that's what it's all about.
Something, bear with me. This is going very, very slowly. Yeah, the strikers. How much of a concern is it getting some of your strikers back to their sharpest for the playoffs, and how do you go about doing it?
Well, they're all going to get an opportunity. You know, once you pick them, they've got to do part of that themselves. If they're on the pitch, they've got to make sure that they're a real handful, they're a real threat, and they give the opposition something to think about, and they give me something to think about. And, you know, you look at the other night, and I always say to the players, if you're a sub, when you come on, make sure you make a difference or you impact the game. And the striker the other night and Andy Williams both impacted the game.
And that's so that gives you kind of something to build with them and get their sort of confidence from.
Yeah, I don't think obviously Jermaine Hill's not lacking in confidence at all, is he? You know, the others have been a little bit up and down of late, but I'm sure they'll come good for the playoffs.
In terms of